My fault. Yeah, we was mad quiet there for a second. Just
yeah.
it
Hey, what is this? The Jokes on Me Day or something?
Alright, yo, G, it's on you. It's ready when you are.
Peace. Choose to Inspire, Not Destroy podcast, episode 13. We're back. Got my guys with me, Rion, Brandon, Kofi. I'm G. Welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome. Thank you for giving us a shot. We hope you enjoy it. No long, catchy intros this time. We've been waiting for this moment. It's the grand finale to our relationship series, talking about our first experiences and just what helped shape us as men. This week, it's on Kofi. Kofi, I'm not even going to take up too much of your time. You've been waiting patiently. Do your thing, King.
Well, this will take about all of 7 minutes. So I will say...
Start with the rest of them.
Yeah, we've been waiting.
I will say those are two completely different, so many years apart from each other. Let's see. This isn't first love. This is... Actually, no, I will say this is first love, not first relationship. So it was college. Let me see. I graduated. So I got a crazy nice package to go to school, like really nice. The only stipulation was right after high school graduation, we had to go and do a summer program. So, went and did that, and there were a bunch of other kids from the city that ended up going into the summer program and doing it, which was it was a requirement, a part of our scholarship. And, we were all in one dorm for the summer because it wasn't very many of us compared to the general population that would be on campus in the fall. And we were able to get like 16 credits before freshman year officially started. So my would then be girlfriend after that summer program was a part of the program. And like she was from Syracuse and she ended up showing, an incredible amount of love and show having never been to Syracuse, having never been up to the school to visit or anything like that, just like showing me around, me and a couple of friends, inviting us to, she was living on campus also for the summer, inviting us to her parents' house for dinner and like, just really like, if you ever went away to school someplace where you didn't know anybody and having somebody that was there at the school that can show you around and like, not just the school, but the entire town and take you places and like introduce you to things. That was awesome. So summer program came and went. That was the first time I actually attended the New York State Fair, which growing up in New York City, I didn't know there was such a thing. You always hear about like the Idaho State Fair or like something else. And then you realize that there's one in New York and it's in Syracuse. So cool experiences there. We ended up, keeping in contact over the summer because after the summer program was over, I think it was about a month and a half, we went back to our, homes for at least 3 weeks and gathered like our stuff to actually start first semester freshman year. But we all started with like 16 credits. So we hit it off and we started dating in school. And, it was new for a couple of reasons. One, because first time you kind of lived with, or I lived with someone, even though we were in our separate dorm rooms, like there's no parents around. There's no, like you can go and see the person whenever the fuck you wanted. And you didn't have to worry about like anything. It wasn't like we went to like a Jesuit school or something where like no boys and girls dorms or any of that, right? It's Syracuse. So we dated for 5.5 years. So in school, we were together. I ended up pledging for a fraternity and like while in school, like I enjoyed her company, didn't really appreciate her very much, but thought that things would get better as we, became adults or moved into adulthood more. So promptly after school, I ended up getting a job in Florida. She moved with me because part of her family was down in Florida. So we lived in Bradenton, Florida for a while. And that was a huge change compared to Syracuse and especially compared to New York City. I'm talking about the West Coast of Florida, like where the Yankees have like spring training, like Sarasota, retirement capital of the world. And it was all right. It was a life that I wasn't ready for in terms of living, like loved her to death. but always wasn't the nicest person. I mean, even in college when I was in a fraternity, there was shit that went down, questionable situations that I was a part of that would threaten a relationship, but like brush it off as, oh, well, that's fraternity life. And like, I didn't do anything, but it was still, hindsight is 2020. Looking back on it, it was like crazy disrespectful to even be in that position. Right. So more of the immaturity of like valuing, being in a fraternity, valuing, quote unquote friendship more than the person that's done more for you in a 4-year span than anybody else outside of your family. So eventually, she was really happy with living in Bradenton, Florida, because like her family was relatively close, like down the road. But me, I'm like, it's Florida. We should, we're 22, 23. We should be living in the hot spot of Florida. Like, why aren't we living in Miami? Why aren't we living in Fort Lauderdale? Like, we're literally in the retirement capital of the world. So work kind of sucked. And I used that as an excuse to really just move. I wasn't very patient with my career because I went to school for retail management to be a buyer. And thankfully I came out and I was able to, get into a rotation program where you were, an allocator, then a planner, then a buyer. But that program was taking too long for me to move into the buying side of things. So I ended up getting a job or officially starting my career with Macy's in Miami in the buying office. And at this point, I'm stoked. I am like, fuck, we're moving to Miami. They doubled my salary. I'm like, this is it. Like, I mean, like you ask any 22-year-old, where do you want to live if Miami doesn't make the list? That's probably because they've never been or read about Miami. So I'm stoked, ignoring her feelings, right? Ignoring and not realizing that like a lot of the shit that I want to do I forced us to do without checking in to see if my other half at that point was into that. Now, I always chalked up and I always made the excuse in my head, well, she's a nurse. She can get a job anywhere. But who the fuck really likes leaving a job, going to find another job, then going to find another job, then even though like, in order to progress upward in that field, like you have to go back to school to, do more as a nurse. So I looked at it like, you don't really have a career. You just have a job. I have a career and we need to go where my career takes me. And thankfully you can do anything that you want. I mean, you can work any place that you want. So ignoring that, then moving to Miami, and I have never seen more gorgeous people in my entire life in one place. I think there's a law in Miami. Like if you are like not so gorgeous, like you are on like 100-day notice to get plastic surgery or something. Like it's crazy. And being 23 and moving to Miami, and growing up reading Car and Driver and living next to a Ferrari dealership and down the street from a Rolls Royce dealership and seeing the cars that you read about your entire life as just like everyday cars that you would see in the Northeast, like a Ford, or you're like, people actually own this shit, not realizing that all that shit is fake. And 97% of the people driving any of that is, are rented. Right. So I became like incredibly materialistic, and like then like with that came just like wandering eyes. Never cheated on her, but just like wandering eyes, making her feel like she wasn't good enough, right? Like, man, do you see that? Like, look, like they're in the gym or they're doing this, and there was nothing wrong with my girlfriend at the time. Like she was, according to BMI, as in shape as you can get for her height and all of that. Like there was absolutely nothing wrong with her, but she wasn't what I was seeing in Miami. Compile that with where we lived in Miami, and this is a true story. We lived right next door to Bang Bros production.
What's that? For the audience that doesn't know what that is, what is that? What is Bang Bros for the people who's unaware?
So it's one of the more famous gonzo adult sites. Like all jokes aside, right? Between them and Reality Kings, and they're kind of somewhat, I think at the time, operated or owned by like the same group. And they were also in Miami as well. So like legitimately, like I remember she was a nurse, so she worked 312s, but she did the overnight. So on the days that she was home and like trying to get sleep, she's like, I keep seeing our neighbor. He keeps coming in with like these random women, and then like you're hearing stuff next door, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Whatever. Like he's probably it's Miami. He's having a good time or whatever the case is. And I kid you, like right next door, like we were apartment 1, they were apartment 2. So that coupled with just being materialistic, going out. Like I mean, I've never been to a state or a city or a club where it's Tuesday looks like a Saturday in New York, but like it was legit Tuesday in Miami. And like, so just, the constant comparison, and didn't really take a step back and realize, she's been through everything, like moved again, like took care of us while we were in college, like taught me how to drive, like shit like that. Like I got my driver's license because of her. I took her car to the driver's test. So, funny story. One last thing about Bang Bros. I didn't believe her at first. Then I saw one of the actors, because he was the dude that was like living next to us. And I guess he had a studio there because they had like different sites or whatever. And she's like, yeah, that's the guy. And like, I see him and I'm like a fucking deer in headlights when I see him. He gets in the elevator with us. This is Memorial Day weekend.
You recognize
back
him?
Yeah. Listen, if I tell you, I'll show you who it is.
His real name
I
or his
guarantee you recognize him. So like he comes up to us and he's like, hey, he's in an elevator with us going to our floor. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I've had stuff going on next door. I apologize for like the noise or whatever during the day. He's like, I want to make it up to you guys. He's like, by the way, my name is Chris. Obviously, I didn't know his real name. And I was like, I gave him this kind of weird look, and he chuckled. Just to give you guys a hint at who it is, it's some dude that actually looks like Justin Timberlake. But anyway, you can look up what star that is. So anyway, he's like, want to invite you guys, out to where we lived in Miami. And you can look this up. It's Nirvana Condominiums on Northeast 64th Street, right off of Biscayne Boulevard in Miami. We had a boat basin and like volleyball and all that shit, but we were adjacent to like the water that's like Star Island and then South Beach. So if you got a boat, you can park your boat at our complex or whatever. And like, whatever. So he's like, yeah, we're going out for Memorial Day. Want to invite you guys out. And my girlfriend was like, yeah, sure. That sounds pretty cool. She had no idea. And I was like, we'll think about it. So when we got upstairs, I showed her, I was like, listen, like we can chill with them. Like it's cool. Right. Because like I can easily separate the business from the personal life, right? And he seemed like a dope personal person, but I was like, but just so you know, this is the business they're into, and whatever, they're making money, they're paying their taxes. And I'm like, but they also do this on their boats. And she was like, yeah, well, let's not do that. So, that's the story about living next to Bang Bros. A buddy of mine ended up in one of the Reality Kings. I don't know if you guys remember, in the VIP, that like venture. He ended up in like one of their scenes because his friend invited him out to a club party, quote unquote, and they all got wristbands. And then he's like, I turn around and there's like people fucking around me, and he's like, I was just in the most random porn shoot ever. So and then visiting South Beach. Not seeing my girlfriend 3 times a week. All these are excuses I made for myself as to why I'm like, man, like she doesn't compare. Why can't you get a regular job and be around? Like we live in Miami, and not realizing again, all the things. So then we move again. I'm unhappy, and Macy's was going through some consolidation or on the verge of it when they consolidated all of the buying offices back to East and West, New York and LA. So I was like, I made up an excuse to rush home, like, we need to go back to New York or whatever. And she was making the most money she had ever made as a nurse. Her career was awesome. They were asking her to be like a surgical nurse instead of just like an RN nurse. And here I am selfishly like, we need to move back to New York. Not even trying to make it work in Miami. This is well before Macy's gave anybody like their walking papers, just seeing the writing on the wall. And I forced her to move back to New York.
Wow.
And we moved back to New York, and we were living at my mom's place for a little bit. My brother was there, and he was a jackass. And he made it a very uncomfortable situation. All she had was like her cat that has been with her entire life. My brother made her put her cat in the basement of our apartment building and couldn't be there because he was allergic to cat, whatever. So long story short, she, she ended up moving back to Syracuse while we were still together. I had just started at Macy's East in the buying office. I was like, all right, it's time to get an apartment. So I went to visit her, and like, because of everything that my brother had did, of course, as the excuse I was making for myself with her cat, she wanted to move back to her mom's place. So I drove her up there, went to visit her, and like shit was off. Like that day, I remember shit was off. Like she wasn't talking to me in the car, got to her mom's place, chilled for a little bit. Her mom had 2 couches. I sat next to her on the couch. She went up to get some water, came back and sat on the other couch. And I was like, so I asked her what was going on. Miraculously, or strangely enough, her mom and stepfather bounced for a while. And I was like, but again, looking back at it, it makes total sense. But back then I was just like, all right, I guess they wanted to bounce. Like, I was completely oblivious because I was stuck in me and like all the shit I had going on. So then like when it was time when I was leaving, she was like, hey, I don't think this is going to work, whatever. So we ended up breaking up. I was fucking devastated because like I didn't see any of the writing on the wall. None. Because again, caught up in what I wanted, when I wanted it, how I wanted it. And, you're not good enough. You don't compare to this person, that person, this person. Look, walking down the street, like and it wasn't like, the way I say it is as though I said that all the time. That wasn't that wasn't me. It was more of like in conversation, or what's on your mind, or, what can I work on? And that's when that stuff would come up. So we broke up. I was out of commission for like 4 months. Like I didn't come out of I went to work and came home. Went to work, came home. I legit didn't do anything for 4 months. Didn't go out with friends, didn't do anything. And then, actually, it's ironic that that ride home I had to make from Syracuse, which was like 5.5 hours in the fucking snow. Crimea River was on repeat. Crimea River was on repeat.
Did you sing along?
Well, yeah, that's how I learned it front to back.
That's why you like Justin Timberlake better.
Well, so when I was thinking about this story, I was thinking about the best way to describe it because I had this entire plan to lay out the story based on song titles, because that's literally like how you could define the story and the music that was playing in the background. When we lived in Miami, I lived there, and I remember Timberland and Justin coming to bed and playing Sexy Back the first 30 times on repeat. And the club going crazy, not knowing that it was like a single that was coming out, or so music played has a very big inspiration into First Love. So with all of that playing and me driving home for 5 hours with that album on repeat, and then his second album, because at that point his second album was out also. It kind of molded me into whenever I get over this, because in the beginning, you never think you're going to get over it, right? Like your first heartbreak, you're just like, this is never, like, I'm never going to get through this. And my mom was obviously supportive and like, yeah, you'll get through it. You'll be fine. Shit happens and it's okay. And whatever. I was like, fuck that. I'm going to make her pay. Not anything like, well, not like breaking the law, but like I'm going to be so successful that she's going to fucking regret it. Yeah. And that was motivation for a very long time. And, so after the 4 months, we ended up somehow in contact with each other. And she told me that like she was dating some dude or whatever. And at that point, like when I was like, fuck it, I'm going to make her pay. That was like level 100 for me. Then when I found out who she was dating and what she was dating, I was at like level 1,000. And like disclaimer.
Specifics.
Yeah. No, that's fine. So her stepfather was Haitian, right? Now, if you've ever been to Syracuse is much like most small towns where, it's segregated by, race, right? Where people live and where people grow up determines what type of people you're around most of your life. So she wasn't rich at all. So she grew up on the side of town that was filled with quote unquote minorities, right? She went to the high school where the population was higher in minorities than white people, right? So she ends up dating this dude who she's married to now that is in the military. Now, mind you, right? Here I am, graduated from Syracuse, degree, corporate job, making, really good money, especially at that age. I turn around and you left me for that. And, he's also racist. Like, how does that even fucking work? Like, your stepfather's Haitian. He's darker than me. Like, and mind you, this entire time she had been in contact with my mother and grandmother, and which I resented for a long time with the both of them, because I'm like, yo, you're supposed to be team me. And they're like, no, when you're wrong, you're wrong. And I'm like, no, but fuck that. You're supposed to be team me. Like, fuck you doing talking to her? Like, she could burn in fucking hell. Like, fuck that. And
because you're going in right now. Wait, let me just say something real quick, please. I don't mean to cut you off. But so you had the problem more with him. Yeah, somebody else should have jumped with him being racist, because you said he was in the military. Like, we not fronting on the military, so I just
I had a problem with both, to be honest. I was like you're college educated, you're settling. Like, what are you doing? It wasn't the fact that he was in the military, more so than like, this dude didn't even finish fucking high school. Like, what do you like? Like, what, like, are you trying to change your situation or not? Right? Like, because you talked for so long about changing, like what you had going on at home.
I feel like we got to cut you off because you sounding real bad right now, bro.
Yeah. I like to separate myself from certain things. So the views on the guy in the military are Kofi's and Kofi's alone. He expressed them. I do not support, condone, or agree with those opinions or those views. We're just coming off of Memorial Day. Shout out to all the veterans, anybody that served your country and fought for us, for our freedom. We appreciate you and we respect you.
So I'll continue. So to put it in context, like, anybody that's watching this will understand the level of resentment and rage, right? It didn't matter what he was. If he wasn't on, better than me, quote unquote, right? Like, if he wasn't CEO, then you're going to be like, fuck that guy. Like, what the fuck? Like, really? Like, what the hell? And then you find out all these, like, egregious things. Like, really? Like, you're really involved with somebody that hates black people but says that your stepfather is the exception? Like, what the fuck? Wild. Like, you've been to my house. My mother got you an internship, right? Like, it's a mind. I'm like, how the fuck does that work? So for a while it was, hold on. Yeah.
Just for clarification, she is light skinned? Like, she's fair complexion, she's white?
She's a white girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said she's a white girl?
Mm-hmm. So again, like, how are you cool with that? And like, and she loves her stepfather, like, loves him to death. Like, how can you look at yourself in the mirror? So then she ends up getting engaged to this dude, and she ends up actually the crazy shit, which really threw me over and was like, I'm really going to be so successful, it's going to make her fucking sick. She got married, right? Because like, he was getting deployed. She got married on my birthday and posted it on Facebook.
You think that
she got married the day before my birthday and happened to post the photos on my birthday on Facebook. So here I am, night of partying. I wake up the next day, I'm looking at my wall, everybody's like saying happy birthday, and like somehow, well, we were still friends. In the feed comes up that she's now married, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, of all the days in the year, all the days, there's over 300 days. Yeah. Like, you chose to post the photos on my birthday. Like, that shit is crazy. So
Q, cry me a river.
Again, me being selfish and not being compassionate and understanding that, people are going to do whatever they're going to do, but also not understanding that, like, it's not always about me.
Hold on. Riyal had a question. I want to hear it.
Well, I just want to know if you finished with your story or not, and then I can start asking the questions. If you have more than
honestly, this is the longest.
I know, just a little bit left.
Let's talk, Kofi. I'm very impressed. It was no stuttering, no. you know how you like looking up in the sky for what you're trying to say. This hit your heart, right? So I respect it. Good job.
So, long story short, they end up having.
Long story long. What do you mean?
We end up losing contact for a while. I end up like sometimes getting like one time I got a phone call from her when I was partying with my dad in New York, and I hadn't spoken to her in like a year or two, and she's on the phone. She was either still dating him or they were married at the time, but she's on the phone with her girlfriends, and they're like talking to me. There's like 4 of them on the phone with her, and they're like, "Oh, would you guys ever get back together?" Whatever the case is. And I'm just like, "What the fuck?" And I have it on speakerphone. My dad is cracking up, and he's like, "That girl, literally has no life. Like, if she's so happy in her relationship, why is she calling you? Why is she talking about you to her other friends?" So they end up going through their drama. All right, he gets deployed. I'm not going to put her business out there, like between her and her current husband, but they had a ton of drama. I'm surprised that they were still together and are still together, to be perfectly honest. I mean, they have 2 kids now, but like,
wait. You just said you're not gonna put all her business out there. Hold on, we're gonna have to rein this in a little bit.
What do you mean?
How
he's almost done. He's almost done.
How do you? Oh, we almost there? All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, there's a whole, so we became friends, like, a while down the road, and we're friends now. Not necessarily as close as we used to be outside of the dating piece. But, she, to this day, like, when Mom was going through what she was going through, I called her, and she was able to pick up, talk to me, tell me about the things that I should be looking for in terms of my mom's health before she passed.
Okay.
And when her mother passed away, I made sure that, obviously I didn't go, even though I was invited. I made sure that, flowers showed up, and like I was there to listen to her about what she was going through with her mom. And then stuff with my grandma, I was able to talk to her about. So we are back to being friends. And that took a lot of soul searching in me to stop trying to make her jealous and just be me and wish her happiness. In any way that, she finds it. And ultimately, it seems like she found it. I hope so. And, just being a better person than you start out early on in life.
Nice.
Yeah. That.
Yo, Kofi, respect, King. Respect. Now, just finish it up with singing the first verse of Cry Me a River for us.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you ask your question first, Rion, but I got a question or two.
Sure.
Oh, Kofi, you don't think you were your own, like, toxic heartbreak? Like, you set out a revenge. Huh?
Sounds like it.
So basically, from the story what you told, unless I missed something, like, this girl was ride or die. She listened to everything that you did, the movements you made, anything you suggested, and she did it. And then to the point where she couldn't do it anymore. And then you took out a revenge on her afterwards.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Like,
really try to make it pay.
I mean, listen.
For what you did.
Yeah. You made a move.
Right, but you have to understand, like, in the moment, in the bubble of that, you're not thinking that. You're like, what the fuck? Like, okay. Really?
Yeah.
Like,
so that was actually my question, to ask if, do you understand that you were the cause of that now? Because as you were telling the story, 100%. It still sounded like you were like, fuck that bitch. She did this.
Like you was the victim, right?
Yeah, like you were the victim.
Nah, that's his style. That's his style. He's part hater. He show a lot of love, but he's a hater too. So he got to sprinkle it in.
No,
a little bit of hate.
I'm giving you real reenactments of how I was feeling at the time.
Oh, I saw the emotion.
Word. I ain't never seen.
I don't have an ill. Let me grab a charger. I'm listening to you guys. I gotta grab a charger.
And my question is to the group anyway, because he was like, "Yo, it took some soul searching, and now like she's doing better, and blah 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 blah." My question is, do y'all care if your exes is doing good or bad?
Nah.
It wouldn't have been no conversation after that. Like he thinks she planned her wedding around his birthday.
Yeah, I don't think she was.
Ain't nobody thinking about you.
And then when I found out the race, because when he brought in the race part, right? And then I found out the race of his girlfriend. I was like, if you know me, like I already feel when you date outside your race, you can't fully identify with that person that you're dating. Even if you guys may love each other, you still may not understand the black culture or the white culture. So I get it. She ended up with someone who, you know.
The views expressed by Rion.
I didn't even say anything crazy.
Dayton or Rion's.
Oh my God.
I do not share, condone, or agree with those views.
Brandon, you think I said something crazy?
To the missus, to Mrs. Stan, I have so much respect for you.
I didn't even say anything. I said sometimes you can't like have a great understanding of each other's culture sometimes. So I get the whole. I didn't say anything crazy.
Keyword sometimes.
I get it, but
I think the key word there is sometimes. Yeah, I don't agree with it, but the fact that you're doing sometimes, there's always a possibility for anything, right? Tomorrow you can walk outside and get hit by a truck.
Yo, so hold on, you gotta answer my question though, because you were like, "Yo, she's doing better," and blah blah blah. My question was, who gives a shit if she's doing better? Like, do you care how your ex is doing? Generally speaking, right? Because the way I feel is
no,
once they
generally no.
Yeah,
generally no. But this was, for me, this was a different type of relationship, right? Like, this was somebody that, like, again, away at school, mom, when I went up to school for the summer program, moved. I didn't even know where mom lived, where I was coming home to. So, like, yo, you can stay at my house. Like, my mom is cool with that. Like, you can, like, as friends, not even as partners at that point. So, like, this, what I don't generally care about any of my exes. I don't even remember some of them. But, like, this was a different type of relationship. So, I'm happy that she's doing better because she's my friend at the end of the day. And then again, despite all the shit we've been through, when I needed her again the most, when mom was going through whatever she was going through, despite her getting into arguments with her husband about it, she picked up the phone and made an hour and a half time for me to just talk to her and figure out what to do, what's going on, what I need to look for. So, yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
Kofi, you know you my guy, and I respect you.
I love this
shouting her out and bigging her up
compliment
and all of those things. Yeah, you know, it takes a certain type of individual to be able to look back and praise somebody that they went through something with. But that was then, dog. Like, you got somebody now in your corner that just supersedes all of that. Anything that she's could have done for you in the past, the part that she's could have played in your life now is being filled with somebody else that I feel like in the middle of all of this praise for the other person, we need to just make it clear that you ain't feeling what I'm saying and you just left the show.
Yo, we gave him like a heck of a hard time, but I also have like
there he goes.
like an ex with whom I kind of like. Actually, the ex I told my story about, I still know how she's doing. We generally like are still friends. So I guess it's I made too much out of like not giving a shit.
Friends to what extent though? Like, you reach out, she reaches out, or if it's just, you know, like through social media, maybe she posts something, you're like, hey, that's great, or, you know, like what type of friendship would you say it is?
I mean, you're right. Like, I don't really speak to her often.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I speak to her like once a year. Hold on, let me let Kofi back in the room because he's not showing up in the jaw.
I see him.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he wasn't. Had to replace his screen on the capture.
Right,
Sorry,
yeah.
I was getting a phone call. I canceled it, and then everything just went black. So,
Yeah. Right on
so
cue.
George, you
That
hit
call
me with
came.
the.
Nah, I got it out already. You gonna have to watch it back. just
He said you gotta catch it on the replay.
Nah, I'm just saying. But yeah, on the real, Kofi, for real, man. Your growth as a person and as a man, I'm impressed. You know, I've kind of been involved in how you've developed inside of relationships. You know, I joke and I give everybody a hard time on here because y'all give me a hard time off of here. So this is the only time I really get to get it off. But I'm happy that you're happy because you deserve to be happy. You know, you've been through a lot. You've done a lot for a lot of people. You've always been giving and selfless, and you've always been welcoming with your energy. And that's why I've been attracted to you as a friend and now as a brother. So to see you happily married and laughing and on here and being able to look back and talk about something that clearly affected you.
Yeah.
Respect, King.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Excuse any jokes, anything like that. Like, I appreciate that you coming out with such a honest version of it, right? Like, everybody, most people would have sugarcoated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was a scumbag. I totally
You
was.
gave it up. It was the grand finale for real, because you know the audience knows how you do. It take a little while to get to that point, but when you get to it, you be like, "Oh, okay, Kofi know what he talking about. He making some sense."
Yeah, true indeed.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think on that. No. We right on time, but I think being that we're like wrapped up kind of with a bow right now, that might be a good time to move forward.
Might be a wrap, right? Time for that outro. Finally, we made it. We got through the
Hold on,
series.
Wait. Time out. What the hell happened at the restaurant? To be continued. Let's leave the
to be
audience
continued.
wanting a little more. Because there was no restaurants in that story.
10 years later.
Ooh, you almost got us.
Don't even remember the restaurant situation. I sold it, and Kofi didn't shut it down, so it was just a little bait.
It's gonna keep running. Eventually, we gonna find. It's gonna be like episode 37. Like, and finally,
at the barbecue, we gonna save that one for the barbecue. That story gonna be just for us. We gonna get some laughs off of that one, just for us offline. But I appreciate y'all, fellas. I appreciate y'all sharing. I feel like it was a good little series. Now we could get back to some other things, talking about Rion Pops, Kevin Samuels. I want to hear that debate. You know, Joe Buttons. Don't call me Joe Buttons, but Joe, I'm coming for that spot. And just
does he still have a spot, technically? I mean,
yeah, we taking over. We about to be the next podcast crew out there. Just stick with us. Keep showing us love. And keep trying to subscribe. Tell a friend, like, comment, just engage. Stick with us. We working. Choose to inspire, not destroy. Peace.
Another one.
peace.